I don't vote. I've never voted.
We don't vote. We don't vote.
It's deliberate choice. I haven't felt that anyone was worth voting for.
I really don't think my voice counts. I really think it's up to other people.
I've always wanted to vote.
Do you feel like if somebody did reach out to you and have a conversation or a series of conversations with you, that it would make a difference to the way that you feel?
I don't know. Nobody's ever done it, I guess.
People who vote tend to think of people who don't vote like this.
They're idiots. Too lazy, too stupid, too ignorant.
But my experience is that not voting is more likely to be a deliberate decision, a boycott of a process that has failed them,
I don't think we have a democracy. I don't think it's enforced.
and of public officials that they don't trust or respect.
There's so much corruption.
I mean, you could drive through any big city in the country and you can see that there's still people living and they have nothing. And these guys are sitting fat, smoking their $200 cigars, getting their $1,000 haircuts.
U.S. voter turnout has been sliding downhill since the 1940s. It managed to hit 65% in 1960, but began falling again immediately, landing in 1996 at 52%.
Are you registered to vote?
No, I'm not.
And have you ever voted?
No, I haven't.
And how old are you?
I'm 25.
I know it's important, but my business is more important.
Have you ever voted?
Nope.
And did you think about voting?
I thought about it.
What did you think?
When it came to mind, it wasn't like a deep subject.
Well, that's depressing. But the voter turnout for presidential races has been improving, including among young people.
The young vote increased pretty dramatically in 2004.
And at least the idea of participating continues to be popular. An MTV New York Times poll found that a majority of young Americans believe they will be a force in the upcoming election. So let's look at the exact turnout numbers from 2004 and see what they were.
What percentage of the eligible voting population actually voted in the last election?
Over 50%, and that's the good news.
Are you with me here? Over 50% is the good news. Looking at the final numbers, the youth vote was estimated around 45%, and the official overall voter turnout for 2004 was 61%. That's terrific. Now we can say we have a higher voter turnout than Iran. Other matchups don't look as sweet. If we want people to become involved, we've got to start by understanding why they're not involved. I thought the best way to understand would be to ask them, and to do it somewhere where they couldn't just say their vote wasn't going to count. I wanted a tight, important election. That wish came true in 2004. The stakes were high.
This is the most important election of our lives.
And the race was in a dead heat.
This election is so wild and woolly, you just don't know what's going to happen.
There were counties that were so close, you could almost say the president was going to be picked right there. People poured into these battle zones from all over the country trying to impact the election.
Would you say that it's your third trip doing this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Our third trip. Where are you from?
New Jersey.
I'm from New Jersey. She's from New York and Massachusetts.
Massachusetts.
The Bronx.
Brooklyn, New York.
Oh, you came down from Brooklyn for the day?
Yeah.
It was the perfect storm, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to ask people why they weren't going to vote in an election where their vote would mean so much.
And that was how I wound up in Allentown, Pennsylvania, 3 days before the 2004 presidential election.
Just so you know, we're going to Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Your main job, folks, is vote. Get out to vote November 2nd. Pennsylvania is Philadelphia, very liberal, progressive by Pennsylvania standards. And then you have this vast farmland in between called Pennsylvania. We have the highest rate of gun ownership in America. We have the highest rate of hunters in America. We are the most rural state in the nation. More people live in rural settings in the state of Pennsylvania than any other state in the Union. We have the lowest rate of women in elected office. We have the lowest rate of minority in elected office in the nation. You are not in Manhattan. anymore.
I'm the coordinator for the Allentown Republican Committee. I come to the job as a community activist.
We're how many days away from the election, troops? 3. Lehigh Valley has been identified as the critical swing region of the critical swing state of the election. The presidential election is won in the Lehigh Valley.
What a beautiful day to be here in the Lehigh Valley. Great to be back in Allentown.
No one can afford to stand on the sidelines and sit this one out.
This county is potentially going to be as close as some of the counties were in Florida last time. The Move On people have been here.
Move On happens recently.
And the ACT people have been here.
John works for ACT. Oh, he's also working for the precinct?
And the Republican Lehigh County people have been here, and the state people have been here. Like, this just ferocious activity.
Whatever groups are done, if you guys could just head out.
The previous leadership of the Lehigh County Republican Committee had pretty much written off Allentown because they saw it as distressed and primarily Democratic. So we're building up the Republican Party here in Allentown, one person at a time.
What does that involve?
Door to door.
Canvassing door to door is the most effective way to get people to come out and vote.
Okay, just keep saying it over and over and over again. Make sure you vote, make sure you vote. Tell your friends, tell your family.
There were, I don't know, 10 or 15 buses that had come down from New York City to quote-unquote assist in the election in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Well, quite frankly, I don't think the people in New York City have any business being in Allentown, Pennsylvania, trying to, shall we say, affect the outcome of the election.
Allentown has been targeted for voter suppression and intimidation. There was a piece of literature that was dropped in the middle of the state that said Republicans can vote on November 2nd and Democrats will vote on November 3rd.
The Democratic Party is being whipped up on hatred, on anger, on revenge.
Guys, the gloves are off.
It's broken down 8th Ward, 5th District. So on the top of your packet, it says Allentown 08-6. That means the ward in the district. My name is Dorothy Barron. I'm a Democrat, staunch Democrat all my life. I work for a labor union.
What about you? Bush? Good. I'm glad to hear that. Okay, I'll see you on Tuesday.
I wanted to meet non-voters.
These presidential candidates, I don't think they have anything to offer the minorities.
Do you consider yourself minority?
Yes.
What's your ethnic background?
Puerto Rican. Since I was younger, I always decided not to vote. I'm not going to vote ever.
I wanted to know if their decision was deliberate.
When you made your decision not to register, did you know how close it was going to be?
Yes.
And how they felt about the election.
I don't think it's going to help us or hurt us.
And I wanted to meet activists.
My kind of people. Great, I'll see you.
My name is Wanda Mercado Arroyo. I am a Republican by conviction. I believe family is key to everything. So many people now are trying to define it a different way.
Are we supposed to knock each one?
Yes, yes, we're supposed to knock on each one, yes.
The activists seem like the other part of the equation to me. At the same time that more and more people have tuned out, there's this small group of people, the politicos, the junkies, whatever you want to call them, that are completely immersed in the political process. And they spend a lot of their spare time trying to affect it.
My name is Kelsey Ketchison. I'm working as a volunteer organizer for Move On. We're just in this little world, like in Allentown. We've just been sleeping and eating and breathing, Move On, and voter registrations and voter contacting. It's pretty all-consuming, but really satisfying.
They've been working anywhere from 15 to 19 hours a day, 7 days a week, since the middle of September.
What motivated you to do this?
All the issues were just so important to me, and it seemed like there was a lot at stake.
What issues?
Abortion, gay rights, the environment, jobs, the war in Iraq. I just felt like I really needed to do something.
So it isn't completely accurate to say that people are checking out because the system is broken. Because one group of people looks at this broken system and says, I don't want to have anything to do with it. But this other group of people, the activists, look at the same broken system and say, I need to do something to change this. That moment when someone either says, yes, I'm in, or no, I'm out, is what determines if a democracy will ultimately succeed or fail. Each time someone decides they're not part of it, our democracy is weaker. And when people stop believing that the process has any meaning, then we really don't have a democracy anymore. Is that where we are now? Have we reached that point?
There's a lower level of trust in our leadership that at least any time in my lifetime.
They all say the same thing, and then when they get to office, you don't really see a big change.
It's understandable that people are alienated. They don't have sufficient cash to get in the conversation and have it heard beyond the fictional, aha, I understand, of any given politician. And unfortunately, that kind of political alienation leads to a kind of political despair.
Who even knows if our votes are even counted?
So basically, that's what's on the menu. I want to look at why someone does or doesn't vote, and some possible changes that might increase participation. My first day in Allentown, I went canvassing door to door with Dorothy as she worked to get out the vote.
I usually do vote for Bush, but I don't like either of them this year.
Yeah,
so I don't know.
It's just vote your conscience,
Right.
and whatever changes you may want to see, that's how you need to vote. This is more confusing than I thought it would be, because that's Tillman, this is Green, so I have everything within here.
This isn't your neighborhood.
No.
That's Ariel's neighborhood, and I met him that afternoon sitting on his front step. He'd been old enough to vote for a year, but he wasn't in any hurry to get started.
I'm not really into the politics. I'm not going to put what I'm doing down just to go register to vote.
And this is Wendy. She's from Allentown, and she got a late start voting too. She's what I call a fence sitter. She's registered, but she's not too keen on the whole thing.
When did you get registered to vote?
About 2 years ago.
So you were 31?
Yes.
Why do you think that it took you so long to register to vote?
I didn't care about politics.
What did you do?
I was out partying.
Did anybody in your family growing up ever talk about politics?
No.
Not your mom or your dad?
Nope.
If young people live in a home in which there's a lot of use of news, where it seems to be a natural part of life, the likelihood that that child grows up to be a teenager who at the first opportunity starts engaging in the political process is pretty high.
That's an accurate description of my family. I come from generations of political activists.
But if a child grows up in a home where there's very little talk about politics, and what talk about politics is cynical, that person probably isn't going to vote.
Did any of your friends get registered to vote?
Nope, not that I know of.
Did some of your friends get registered to vote when they turned 18?
No.
None of your friends got registered to vote?
Not that I know of.
Are your friends registered to vote now?
Don't know.
You never talk about it?
No.
Even though they tell us that, it counts that we vote, it really ain't no point because one person ain't gonna make a difference.
I needed to rent a car, so I thought I might as well take care of that. At the car rental, I met Thomas, who had some definite ideas about whether or not your vote counts.
If more people were to vote in the election, politicians would be a little bit less able to lie about issues or twist things or maybe say one thing and do another, because more people would be aware, more people would be into it and following, what's going on.
The people who are in place, politically speaking, can get you more of the stuff you need if you see your way to voting for them. And let's not just talk about voting for them, holding them accountable. George Bush actually works for you. You do not work for him. He is a paid servant of the public trust.
This election is in the hands of the people, and I feel very comfortable about that.
The plan was to spend time with non-voters and activists. Ariel hadn't invited me for dinner with his family, so I thought I'd swing by Move On headquarters and see what was going on over there.
I'll have to call you back very soon. Thanks.
They were set up in a large brick building on Hamilton Street.
I have been so impressed with Move On. Very efficient.
We're going to run a second precinct leader training, I'm hoping at about 9:20.
And very personal also.
And you're waiting to be trained yet, right?
Here's Alyssa detailing the chain of command.
I'm responsible for 6 precinct leaders, and then those precinct leaders are responsible for canvassers and phone bankers, and then underneath those are the actual volume of voters that we're trying to get to the polls. One of my precincts is huge. It's got 400 people. You're not going around asking people for money or to buy a silly product. You're just asking them to change the world.
Kelsey was there, who you met already, along with hundreds of other out-of-state volunteers who were here because the race was so tight in Pennsylvania. People were here with their families, like Amy, who was here with her aunt and uncle.
I have some really good conversations. The best are with people who are kind of on the fence, and you realize, oh wow, it is possible to change someone's mind. That's pretty cool.
And people had also come with friends. Kelsey and Alyssa had worked together for years, and they had 2 other friends here, Marcus and Teresa. Having fun, positive associations with politics plays a big role in whether or not people get involved. Catherine is a non-voter I met who's a perfect example of this. Her dad was very politically active, so according to Dr. Jameson, there's a good chance that she'd be interested, but she's not.
I'm 38 years old and I'm a registered Republican. I registered when I received my last driver's license.
So when you were 34, you registered for the first time?
Right.
And to this day, have you voted?
No. My father, he was the managing editor at the Morning Call newspaper in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and he is very political.
I've been keeping tabs on what's going on in Washington.
He is a registered Democrat.
You know, don't discuss politics and don't discuss religion, and I'll take you on. You want to discuss either one.
Probably every holiday. My grandfather, my grandmother, and my father, one of them would be ranting and raving about some sort of issue. It definitely made me upset and frightened. That could be why I try to shy away from the politics.
So the differences are starting to be clear. Non-voters don't believe their vote is actually going to change anything. They may not realize they can hold their elected officials accountable, and they have a negative impression of politics in general. Meanwhile, their families and the people they hang out with aren't paying attention to political events anyway. But I wondered, is there a moment when someone becomes political? And could it happen to anyone? At any time?
Okay, can you hold on 1 second? I'm going to try to find out things.
Have you voted before?
No, I've never voted before. I graduated from law school in 2002. I was still kind of really apolitical. And then I went abroad. I spent a year in East Timor. Okay, so in 1999, the UN sponsored a referendum to let the East Timorese people decide for themselves whether they wanted to remain with Indonesia or become independent. Well, the Indonesian military was threatening to kill them if they voted. So they were under threat of death if they voted, and still they walked for days down from the hills to Dili. They never voted before. I think 99% of people voted in this referendum. Over 70% of people voted for independence. And, we have this lethargy. Generation X, I never was involved in things, and I guess after going to East Timor and you see people whose lives are dependent upon activism, things change, and you realize you need to play a part in sticking up for what you believe. She's not even on the master list anymore. What was her name?
You're hunting down 3 Kerry supporters?
Well, we're trying to enter them, yeah.
How long have you been working on those 3 Kerry supporters?
An hour.
You and me, and a small mystery
midnight, we drove for an hour to Marcus's parents' home in New Jersey.
So what time is it?
It's 1:45.
And then what time are we expected back?
8 o'clock.
Live from the NBC News election headquarters at Democracy Plaza in New York.
This is it, the race for the White House. 48 hours to go. Bush and Kerry in a final appeal for votes.
The next day, I met the Allentown Republicans. They were focused on contacting uncertain voters personally.
The houses that we're getting, they are going to be very spread out, and that's just because they're very targeted. The people who we are contacting are what we term unreliable voters, meaning that they've only gone to vote once or twice in the past 4 years.
Glenn is a Lehigh County commissioner. He and his wife Kathleen are active in local politics.
Is Margaret a Republican? Is it too soon to tell?
Oh, yes.
Too many people are worried about the presidential race. They won't vote in a primary. They won't understand it.
You think we should get more candidates involved?
Yes. Maybe 2 Democrats against each other, 2 Republicans against each other, so you have more of an option.
Well, that's what happens in the primaries. Do you ever vote in a primary? Do you know what a primary is?
No.
If you really want to make change, you have to vote every year.
The local elections are overlooked, and that's where it all begins.
We're seeing like 36% turnout in those off-year elections. I mean, fewer and fewer
Not
people.
here.
Not here, really. You have
Lower.
Like, lower.
Lower.
How low?
20%.
I don't think most people think the Republican men wash dishes.
I do all the work.
What are your other chores?
Cooking, cleaning, dishwashing. I do all the domestic stuff. Last night we held an organizational meeting with local Latinos who just can't wait to get involved politically with the Republican Party so that they can start making changes in their neighborhoods.
What do the Republicans have to gain from getting more people to vote?
Well, because we think we have a good message. When Latinos hear our message, it's a fit, it's a natural fit for them. They like it.
We're going to be handing this out to Allentown residents. And it's here, and we have it in English, and we have it in Spanish. I'm a Latino, and I'm part of the Republican Party, and I'm trying to reach out to other Latinos. What can I do to reach out to
It's not what you can do, it's what they can do. They need to do more for us. If Bush can go and talk to the upper-class white people, American people, and why can't he come and speak to us?
Who is that, the American people? What do you mean by that?
The white people, the Caucasians.
Cedric Sutton works at a community center in Allentown.
Some communities have been scorned, overlooked, just straight out dissed. That's going to leave a bitter taste in my mouth. They made all these promises they was going to help clean up the neighborhood, have a better police force, get the drugs off the street. 2 or 3 years now, and this particular person did not come through. So I'm not going to vote, and I'll tell my friends not to vote either.
I believe it was Sean Puffy Combs, he even said that Bush wasn't going to the minorities, he wasn't speaking to them.
But here Wanda came and explained to you her candidate's point, and it didn't make a difference to you.
Well, it doesn't make a difference. It's October 31st. They always wait for the last minute to come out and ask us why we're not voting.
So you'd like more of a continuing dialogue?
Well, we need more communication. It can't always be on television.
Democracy at its best is about people speaking to and talking with one another about what is best for the nation.
And what happens when a large percentage of the population just drops out of the conversation?
Without the healthy participation of the majority of Americans, it is tragic and sad that the political process becomes hostage to those with deep pockets, those with extreme ideologies, and those with no sense of compromise.
When there are political discussions, I mean, people are furious, angry.
Bush believes that if he gets elected, this will be good for the country and for the world, but I think he's flawed in that belief. I think he's a crap president. I think he's a liar. I think he's a warmonger. I think he's stupid. He's arrogant.
Mr. Botox, Mr. Tan, Mr. New Haircut.
can't change the fact that what's inside this guy is a flaming liberal who's wrong on every stinking right issue.
So do you think that the partisanship and the unpleasant nature of the dialogue is one of the things that turns you off?
Yes.
The leadership of the two parties have to get back to talking about facts, talking about issues, and talking in terms of respect for opposing views.
Move on past, this is Teresa.
Those are great because
we just need as many volunteers as possible. So if you run into anyone who needs a place to go, send them to us.
Volunteers were still streaming in to Move On headquarters.
My name is Pamela Meyer. I live in the Bronx. I'm a teacher and I work in a high school. Going to Allentown was very exciting for me and probably one of the most important things that I have done for most of my life, really.
I was concerned about the election, that I wasn't putting my money where my mouth was with this election. And so I came out here to Allentown to work and try to support voter registration.
When I walked into Move On, they wanted you to practice whatever it was that we were supposed to do. You knock on the door and you say this and you say that, right? So I asked David, would you like to practice with me? And we did.
Pam and David made friends and headed out to knock on doors. A new precinct leader had just arrived, and Alyssa went out to pick her up.
Hello. No, we're on Hamilton. Can you tell me like more of an address? It's on Plaza Lane, and how do I get there? Okay. Okay, great. Happy Halloween! Oh my god. It's Halloween. Maybe people will think we're trick-or-treaters. They'll be more likely to answer, have a political conversation with us. A lot of people are not having political conversations, and they're like, I don't do politics. And you have to be like, well, do you mind, telling us how you feel about something like healthcare? What matters to you in this election? And a lot of those undecideds really have a 5 to 15 or 20 minute conversation with these volunteers at their door, and it's like, in the end, they're like, you know what? I really think I should vote. Yeah, this stuff actually does matter.
So you're saying literally a 5 to 20 minute conversation with an individual can turn a non-voter into a voter?
Yeah, definitely. Being like, yeah, you are registered to vote. Oh, really? I am?
So if you're registered once, you stay registered until when? Until you move.
So I'm not actually going to vote because I've been kind of helping with the process of getting everybody else registered to vote. Pennsylvania seemed like the best place to come because there are 21 electoral votes.
So let's talk about the Electoral College.
I would like to eliminate the Electoral College.
I would like to eliminate the Electoral College.
Personally, I'd like to see it go to the popular vote. It's going to bring out more people because they'll feel that their vote actually counts.
Meet Kareem.
Where do you live?
I live in Allentown.
Kareem owns a deli. He follows politics some, but he doesn't vote. And he says one of the reasons is because of the Electoral College.
Everybody said that, Kerry basically, he's getting Pennsylvania. So I just figured if he's going to get Pennsylvania, then probably my vote wasn't going to.
So you felt like your vote wasn't really going to count?
Sort of, yeah. I don't even know how the electoral vote, how is it constructed?
Article 2, Section 1 of the Constitution says that the president will be chosen by electors from each state. How many electors does each state get? They get the number of their representatives in Congress plus 2 more, 1 for each senator. Most states have a winner-take-all system. So even if a candidate only gets 51% of the popular vote in that state, they get all the electoral votes. If no one wins a majority of the electoral votes, the House of Representatives gets to decide the election. All this means that a candidate can get fewer votes and still be elected president. It's happened 4 times.
The thing that they were most concerned about in
creating this new office called president was that the people would not know who the candidates were.
It was basically because there wasn't a comprehensive media system.
Absolutely.
Does it require a constitutional amendment
Yes.
to change it?
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
part of the Constitution?
Yeah.
The last two elections, 80% of the country did not have a presidential campaign. Well, that's not right. We should be involving all of our people.
There's actually a reform called the National Popular Vote Bill that would make sure the person with the most votes becomes president. But not everyone is a fan.
March 17th, 2008. I've been emailing Curtis Gans about the Electoral College. He's deeply opposed to the president being elected by popular vote because he says the winner will be chosen based on television advertising in the big cities. He thinks the best solution is to keep the Electoral College, but to have the states award the electors in proportion to the popular vote instead of the winner-take-all system we have now. That's the way they've been doing it in the Democratic primaries, and it really does make it so that every state matters.
What about the electoral votes being split proportionately instead of a winner-take-all system? You don't need a constitutional amendment for
I
that.
don't think so.
You would not need a constitutional amendment for the proportional selection of the electors. That could be done state by state.
Hello? We really have to get back. I can't find this Motel 8. Oh, this is such a bummer.
We drove back to Move On headquarters. David and Pam had met someone that I was interested in talking to.
And one guy that we met was really interesting. We sort of showed up and went to our little spiel about, hi, we're here from Move On and we're interested in talking about the election. And he said, I'm not voting for any of them. They're just bad-mouthing each other and they're telling lies. I'm not going down and voting.
They had been to a lot of houses, but they thought he was on Levan's Road, and Pam drew a little map. David couldn't remember exactly which house it was, so we tried pretty much every house on Levan's Road until it got dark.
Thanks so much for your time, Karen.
Thanks a lot for your time.
Sorry I couldn't help you.
It's all right. Have a good day.
We decided to try just a couple more houses after that. And that was how we met Jeffrey, who turned out to be Wendy's brother.
Jeff's my older brother, my best friend. I love him. He's a fun guy.
And is he registered to vote?
I don't think so.
Are you registered to vote?
Not now.
Have you ever been registered to vote?
Nope, I never did it. I procrastinated.
You've never voted?
No.
How old are you?
34.
Somebody told me to go register and vote right now. I wouldn't even know where to go or how to do it. Because you don't get it in the mail. There's no information about it anywhere.
I know if you look in the phone book, you can call both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party.
What about going to the phone book and seeing if voter registration was listed in the phone book?
Oh, where do you look that up? Registration?
Well, see,
Under ours?
Let's get a phone book. Let's check it out.
Okay.
I don't think we have a phone book.
There's got to be people you can communicate with.
I asked people and a couple people told me different places.
Who did you ask?
If I go to a bar or something, I usually ask somebody and they say, oh, that depends where you live.
You asked somebody in a bar where
By
you
the time
registered to vote?
Well, I mean, it's a bar. Politics always come up. Drunks are very opinionated. It shouldn't be so complicated. It should be something you get in the mail, you fill it out, and then you send it in.
The system is messed up and it's completely different in every state.
How many people did you register individually, Teresa, would you say?
I'd say around 400.
And it was hard?
It was very hard. We need to move to one form, one national form that all states can use.
If we wanted to increase voter turnout, no registration requirement. Same-day voting registration, so you basically become able to vote by going to vote.
New Hampshire has same-day registration where you just walk in there, register to vote, and vote.
I'm opposed to it.
I think there could be fraud with same-day registration.
There is fraud.
In the last 3 to 4 elections, how many times have you voted?
I voted twice in both residences that I had.
No, you're not saying you voted twice, like I voted once in the primary and I voted once in the general election.
I'm saying I voted twice in the general elections.
On the same day?
Yes.
There are 20 states that could have election day registration, but there are probably also 20 or 25 states which should never have it.
After talking to Jeffrey, I wanted to see if other people were having trouble with their registration, so I went down to the 7-Eleven where all the kids hang out. I met a few of them, including Serenity and Lily,
It doesn't make a difference if you vote or not.
John,
If there was more things for us to be involved in as far as our community, we'll have that feeling in our hearts to know that things will change and we'll vote.
and Marwa.
My name is Marwa Abdullah.
And are you registered to vote?
No.
Do you know how to do it?
Yes.
How do you do it?
You have to fill out the form. I'm not quite sure, but I know that there's this place that you can go to and you just fill out a form and give it to them.
Do you know what place it is?
No.
Would you be enthusiastic about civics being taught from grades 5 through 12?
I would actually want to design a curriculum beginning in the 3rd grade.
What environment cultivates political awareness in a young person?
One in which people are shown the relationship between their everyday lives and politics.
Everything in your life deals with politics in one way, shape, or form. You know, like your air, water, everything is involved with politics.
I ain't gonna affect me because I'm gonna keep on living.
I understand how the government affects me, but I don't know as a single person how I can affect the government unless majority, mass people have the exact same feelings that I do and we all get together, but how would you do that?
And it's not just voting, it's the notion of being an active citizen who has the responsibility to speak out, to say what you believe, and to think about what kind of world you want to live in.
After leaving the 7-Eleven, I checked my messages. I had put in a call earlier to meet up with another non-voter. His name was Maurice, and he was an ex-felon.
How can I put it? Convicted of a sex offense.
When was the last time that you voted?
I didn't vote.
You've never voted?
Laws barring convicted felons from voting are considered constitutional. They have become particularly significant in the last 25 or 30 years with the enormous growth of our population of convicted felons.
What issue was important to you that you wanted to vote about?
Pretty much the whole things, how everything's run. Everybody that broke the law gets some sort of first-hand experience seeing how the system runs and everything. And a lot of them know that it ain't run right.
By committing a felony, you infringed on someone's rights somewhere, so you should lose some of your own.
It's a racist issue.
In some states, we're talking about 1 out of 5 minority males is disfranchised.
80% of the U.S. public supports restoring voting rights to felons who have completed their sentences. July 2002 Harris poll.
As soon as they're completely free of all obligations to the legal system, they should be reinstated and be able to vote again.
Would you have felt more connected to your community if you could have voted?
Yeah, I would have felt that I'd have did something for my community.
I had breakfast at Kareem's Deli. I wanted to talk with him about other reasons that he doesn't vote. We've already gone over his concerns about the Electoral College, but reason number 2, his real beef, was that the candidate he wanted to vote for wasn't on the ballot.
I wanted to vote actually for Nader, but since I couldn't vote for him, so I just decided not to vote at all.
What do you like about Nader?
He's a very smart man. I hear a lot of his interviews and it makes sense to me, everything he says.
People have been registering more as independent.
1/3 of all registered voters in this country are not members of the Republican or the Democratic Party.
But the fact is that in a lot of races, they don't have candidates.
Historically, in Pennsylvania, there have been a lot of third parties. In fact, up until the early 20th century, you would typically see 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 candidates on the statewide ballot.
Throughout our history, it was only these little parties that got the ball rolling. The anti-slavery party, the women's right to vote party in the 19th century, Labor, Farm Party.
Having lots of candidates on the ballot had another advantage: high voter turnout.
Turnout levels are around 80% in the late 19th century. That is considered something of the high water mark in American political participation.
But then they started putting in their laws. They were originally designed to protect us from the communists in the 30s.
Various states passed laws making it increasingly difficult for third parties to get on the ballot.
So you'll see that starting around 1920, 1930, there are no third-party candidates running for statewide office in Pennsylvania.
Give me an example of an issue that you brought to the campaign that neither of the major parties was discussing.
Single-payer health care.
Can you give me a brief description of what happened to Carl Romanelli?
A brief description, you're like, 2 words, got screwed.
In order to qualify for the ballot after my party nominated me, I needed to gather at least 67,072 voter signatures.
They have this arcane formula that you have to get 2% of the highest vote getter in the prior statewide election. That's how many signatures you need.
The Democrats' minimum number of signatures is 2,000.
Bob Casey, when he ran for U.S. Senate, he only needed 2,000 signatures.
Because he's a Democrat.
Yes.
And who makes those rules?
Republicans and Democrats.
How many signatures did you get?
99,802. The Democrats filed a challenge.
It's terrible what they did to Carl.
My name was not allowed to appear on the ballot.
It's chilling.
It hurt to have election day come and go and not even have that choice on the ballot.
All we're looking for is an even break.
We should all play by the same rules.
They're on the ballot, I'm on the ballot, we're all in the debates.
Do you think that third-party candidates bring new voters into the process?
Absolutely. There are so few people who participate now. If you really want more participation, you need people to feel their ideas are being represented.
I thought I was going to vote for Kerry. You know, I just decided that maybe I'll wait the next 4 years. Somebody better come along.
Kareem is not alone, of course. Everyone hates the candidates.
People are running to be president. I don't think they're running for office and trying to be a president because they want to do better for this country or for the people. They do it because of money and power. It's greed.
They out to help themselves first. If helping you is in the midst of helping themselves, then I mean, so be it.
What I really want to see is a black candidate to run for president.
Thank you.
I want to see a Puerto Rican go for presidential. I want to see something. It's always a white person.
Dr. Kesar believes that dissatisfaction with candidates is one of the most central factors pushing voter turnout down.
People do go out to vote for the lesser of two evils, but they don't do it with as much enthusiasm.
No one likes the candidates, but most people would never consider running for office. Like John, for example.
We're poverty-stricken. We don't have the opportunity to come up from the poverty-stricken state that we're in, and we don't have the ingenuity or the ambition to make a change.
Change.
We need some type of assistance.
Maybe you need leadership.
Exactly. If we had leadership outside of the community, that would make us stronger. You know what I'm saying?
Why can't the leadership come from within the community?
Because we don't have any type of leadership. The only leadership we have is who's the next guy selling the most drugs, or who's the guy killing the most people, who's everybody more afraid of.
Acknowledge. Where does the Malcolm X come from? Where does Martin Luther King come from? Where do those leaders come from?
They came from the street, but they had outside influence.
But they had inside motivation also, right?
Yeah, you're right.
1, 2, 3. You yourself, you're good at speaking your mind. Do you ever feel that you could be a leader in your community?
No, I don't.
I really believe that someone from the community should work their way up to the presidential office. That would really help out because they would know what goes on in the urban community.
If you're not paying attention and voting for them when they're running for local offices, how are they ever going to get to become president?
They would never do it if I don't vote. I understand that. Stronger outreach.
And thinking about that, does that change your mind at all?
No.
There's just a lot of ignorance out here in the world.
Acknowledge.
You guys getting the air back there? No, we're fine. It's okay back here.
We visited a church last Sunday, and it was a Latino church, and some of the members came to me and they asked me, so are you for Kerry? He's the one pro-life. And, you know, they are getting the wrong message. And that's why we're going door to door, making sure the parents know and community know that they have a right to this information. Entonces, yo lo que estaba pensando es, imagínate que un niño nazca de 5 meses. Nacen niños de 4 meses, los ponen en una incubadora y los crían y los mantienen. Si viene una persona y mata a ese niño de 4 meses, Se presenta cargo por homicidio, ¿no? Porque mató a un niño.
Bueno, partial birth abortion, eso es.
Eso es eso.
Tú sabes la diferencia de murder y abortion en 2 inches. Porque eso, tú sabes lo que pasa cuando hacen un partial birth abortion. Eso es terrible.
Es como una aspiradora y comienzan a desgarrar los brazos y todo.
Whenever I had spare time, I was still driving around the back roads of Allentown looking for that mystery non-voter that Pam and Dave had met. I never found him, but on that trek, I met Justin. He had lived about 15 minutes from Allentown his whole life.
Have you ever registered to vote?
No.
Never?
Nope. I'm in a band and everything, so.
Is it a metal band?
Yeah, really, really heavy stuff. I'm a metalhead.
Did you see that Metalhead special?
Yeah.
Maybe you did? The True Teenage Confession Metalhead special?
Yep. I've pretty much been the type of person to just kind of go with whatever I feel like doing. The day they try to outlaw something I'm doing, that's the day that I'll raise a stink about it.
So people don't really get involved in politics until they get angry. Is that what happens?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times people aren't interested in things unless it directly affects them.
I think this is what we're going to call apathy. Let's talk about apathy. Richard has a good take on it. I found him getting clipboards ready for the next day.
How do you feel about people who don't vote?
Well, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't vote in the last election. My name, he was like, this person's gonna tell you this person does this. Americans shut down, like everyone, myself definitely included, shut down the littlest thing. When it's not about the money they're making, the whole idea of getting out of your bed and getting out of your house and getting to the polling place is overwhelming.
Being a teacher, I've had to think about apathy a lot. It's because of habits that people develop when they watch television that we have the apathy we have today.
According to TV Guide, the average person watches television 7 hours a day.
You don't interact. You don't feel responsible for your part of the relationship. And that responsibility in relationship is what voting is about. That connection and interaction between people, not between a television and a person, is what will get rid of apathy.
Control of the most powerful government on the planet may not interest the U.S. public, but there are corporations and lobbyists who are more than willing to step in. For example,
pharmaceutical companies that reap huge benefit because they can use their advocates and their lobbyists to protect them. The appearance is that those in charge of American politics want the folk to vote, but we know that's malarkey. It's a facade. Your refusal to vote appears to you outrageous, appears to you as an outlaw act. But when you do that, you only play into the hands of the people who are controlling things as they are, the status quo. The holders of the string have manipulated you into a stance where the people on the inside are reaping the rewards of your hard work as a citizen in America.
Huge rewards, definitely. Hewlett-Packard spent $700,000 lobbying and got a tax cut worth $14.5 billion. That isn't the kind of story that lawmakers want on the front page, and what has emerged is a culture of duplicity.
Everyone in power will lie to make you think that they're better, make them a better person in your eyes.
They can't just be themselves.
No.
Do you ever remember anyone in public office that you thought this person is just being themselves?
Bill Clinton. He's probably the most honest liar I've ever heard of.
What does that mean?
Well, I mean, he basically came out to the public and said, listen, I'm gonna lie to you, And everybody said, hey, at least he's honest.
They're not honest. They're not saying, this is what I really think, this is what I really want to do. They're agreeing with the majority of people, what they think they want to hear to get their votes.
You vote for them, they get in office, and they're like, haha, I'm already here, you can't do nothing.
If we don't trust our government, that's a mess.
There are no roads here, there are no signposts. We got a man through this dark land.
I think seeing it from the inside has changed my opinion. He ran for state representative the first time. The longer he was in, the more disgust I got, honestly, because I learned more about how it works, the politics. Getting the higher-ups in the party already, they're already elected, to kind of back you and then make sure you get the money to win, and it's not as pure as it seemed in the beginning. I've learned too much, I think.
I really don't believe that money's the problem. She does, and I don't.
$4 million between the two candidates was spent on our congressional office race. How can you do that? How could you raise $2 million? Where would you even get it from? And what do you got to do to get it?
I believe in funding. I think we ought to fund candidates.
The system is a voluntary system. What you do is you say, I will accept public funding and I will not accept any private funding. And then there are resources that are made available for you to be able to run the campaign.
So there's no private fundraising at all? Like it isn't matching funds?
No, it's not matching funds. The system of clean elections, the one that now is at work in 7 states that have been voted in, is full public financing. Those candidates do not take a penny from anyone. They can't use their own money either.
Public funded elections, they're a bad idea. Once they start paying for the elections, they're going to start setting the rules. They're going to say, you're a good candidate, we'll give you money. You're not a candidate, at least we don't think you're a candidate, we're not going to give you money.
We know that more women run, more minorities run, more young people run.
And does it actually increase voter turnout?
If you talk to people in Maine and Arizona, they'll tell you that they're much more excited about voting because they feel that they're voting for people that will listen to them rather than people that are simply accountable to big funders.
At Move On, they were preparing their troops for battle.
Can I get everybody's attention real quick, please?
We want to mainly focus on the people who gave us specific time slots. Literally, our entire operation depends on having a set of people scheduled into each time slot so that we know who's supposed to vote when. 4 to 8 is your key time period.
Justin had not scheduled a time to vote, but we talked for a long time. We talked about other ways that politics affects him.
It affects the roads that you drive your motorbike on, the taxes that you pay, whether or not you have health care at your job. It might affect whether or not you get drafted in the military.
I guess it does then, yeah. I guess it does pretty much affect every aspect. I guess I never thought of it that way.
As we got into it deeper, it became clear that his real reservations are about the actual way that the government works.
We have people who fought in past wars, veterans that are homeless on the street, and you see them all the time, and the country's not doing anything for them. We're spending money in Iraq when we should be spending it on the homeless.
Iraq, $1.5 billion per week. Homeless, $1.5 billion per year. But some of Justin's other ideas about the budget are a little sketchy.
We're spending money on cloning. Why? So that we can make more homeless people?
Actually, it's illegal for federal money to be used for human cloning. President Clinton outlawed it in 1997.
How much money are we spending on cloning?
I'm sure we're spending a couple billion.
Where does your information come from?
My head. I make it all up.
This is what democracy looks like.
Democracy is not even possible unless we have accurate information.
Politics are usually boring. I watch Monster Garage, cartoons and stuff.
Yeah, that's it.
We need to develop political coverage for different demographics, not just different points of view. For example, there's this new game called Fantasy Congress. It's based on fantasy football, and it allows you to become more familiar with real-world politics in a game setting. But in addition to exploring ideas like that, it's time for guidelines on television election coverage.
Mandated by Congress.
Mandated, absolutely. The larger the market share and the larger the profitability, the more coverage of politics a station or a network must give.
And what would be the benefit of that?
An educated public. You're talking about 34 million people who watch primetime.
Increasingly in political campaigns, both sides dispute the facts, and that's very confusing to voters.
I would like to know what the senators and the representatives, what type of views they have. Do you have any idea where you would go for that information? No, actually I don't.
Go to sources that have historically been fair and accurate. League of Women Voters works very hard to accurately represent and be nonpartisan, as does factcheck.org.
And how hard is it staying informed?
It's not difficult.
I belong to mailing lists where information is sent out.
If I'm cooking dinner at night, I'll turn on NPR.
I watch Fox News a lot. It's clear they're conservative.
For myself, I rely heavily on some of the news out of Britain.
I watch The Daily Show too, if you count that.
He's the biggest celebrity in the world.
After watching your commercials, I just don't want to vote. I don't get informed when I listen to them.
Read multiple newspapers. Newspapers over television, because there's more depth and there's more clear structure of what's happening.
Going to websites.
Project Vote Smart.
Go to the Congressional Budget Office to find out what does defense spending look like. whitehouse.gov/OMB, Office of Management and Budget.
I'd watch the debates.
I can watch the flow on a blog where I see a bunch of emails from different people bouncing ideas back and forth.
You know, something comes up that somebody thinks is poignant and powerful, they're going to pass it on to other people.
Local issues, your school board meets once a month. Maybe go to your county meeting 1 month. Go to a school board meeting another month. Spend a little time watching C-SPAN 3 hours a month. You'd be better off.
Any questions from the public? Hearing none, let's go into the roll call.
We've had over 100 volunteers go out. So they were knocking on over 1,000 doors today. So we're trying to figure out how many of those people are supporting Kerry and how many of those people are supporting Bush and putting that into a database.
Joan was strong Kerry, and she may need a ride if it rains.
Charlene, strong Kerry, 9 a.m.
We'll see if these people are on this list.
Okay, Bobby?
Bobby, yeah.
And Jocelyn? Okay.
We have a goal of hitting 15,000 contacts. We're at around 11,000. So these numbers are essential to figuring out where we are in the campaign, if we're on the right track, or if we need to reevaluate what we're doing.
I drove by the Republican office to see if they were still working, and I watched until the office closed down a little after 2 a.m. Tomorrow was the big day.
Should be a dry day for election day. 58 degrees, also mild.
Did anyone go home?
Yeah, some of them went home at about 1:30, and then had to be back in here by 5:30, and then the other ones slept in a conversion van out in the parking lot.
We were up all night. They're all over at the VFW.
I was interested in doing transportation.
I'm gonna send you guys down to the VFW.
You're gonna get off at exit 57. We have a huge problem in Elephant One.
That is in which county?
That's in Lackawanna County. I believe that they may only have one machine. It's a very rural precinct. The machine broke.
They're not redirecting them, they're just sending them away saying that they can't vote.
No one's happy about that. I would think the Republicans aren't happy about that either.
Republicans say that some machines in the city already had votes on them before the polls opened.
It's 7:55 and this is already happening.
There's just always some kind of controversy. It's never, okay, everything was cut and dry and these were the votes and here's the numbers to prove it. Who knows what they're doing?
So you don't really have any confidence in the system?
No.
We have had election fraud. There's a lot at stake. Control of the American government, control of the economy, control of the military. When there's a lot at stake, there's an incentive to fraud. The difference between our history of fraud and computerized fraud is that with computerized fraud, you can set up a program that basically gives you the number of votes you need, switches, deletes, adds, without leaving a trace. Computer professionals pretty much agree that the system is tremendously vulnerable.
I'm Alex Halderman. I'm a graduate student at Princeton University. I'm Ari Feldman, and I'm also a graduate student at Princeton University. My interests are computer security and technology policy. This machine has two locks, one that covers both the power switch and the memory card slot. And the memory card slot is really all that's needed to introduce malicious software on the machine.
All someone would need is access to one of these machines for 1 minute.
Alex over here, who has modest locksmithing skills, is able to pick it in under 10 seconds.
Alright, so that wasn't very hard. This machine has already been infected with our vote stealing software, and there won't be any signs in the pre-election testing that the machine is infected. Now we're ready to run our election. This is the race for President of the United States. The candidates are George Washington and Benedict Arnold.
They walked me through the election.
And so we can cast a vote for George Washington, and then press next.
I'm going to cast my vote for George Washington as well. And again, George Washington, father of our country. I think I favor him over most notorious traitor. And, all right, so
now we have 3 votes for George Washington?
That's right. The total so far is 3 votes for George Washington, no votes for Benedict Arnold. Now election day is over. We're going to end the election and print out the totals. And we see the total. 1 vote for George Washington, 2 votes for Benedict Arnold. How did this happen? Our demonstration vote-stealing software running inside the machine switched 2 of the votes from George Washington to Benedict Arnold. It switched all of the records, so there's no way to go back now and find out that the actual result was 3 votes for George.
The Diebold AccuVote TS voting machine that the Princeton team hacked is an earlier version of the machines currently in use in Allentown.
I'm Levi Price. I'm the Chief of Staff at Lehigh County.
And you were the one who purchased the new Diebold voting machines.
I was involved in the purchasing. When we looked at those, we looked at the possibility of tampering. We changed the passwords for each election.
The password didn't stop us for more than a few seconds.
One, you have to have the technological capability of altering the software.
The memory card is just a standard off-the-shelf memory card that you use in your digital camera. The smart cards you can buy over the internet.
We have 700 separate machines. Each of those 700 separate machines is locked with a different key.
You don't need to break all 700 locks. Because a viral attack is possible, all you need to do is infect 1 or a small number of machines. And then the virus and your malicious vote-stealing software will spread from machine to machine during normal election procedures.
But what if we had a paper trail for the touchscreen machines? Would that make them more reliable?
There is no reason to trust a touchscreen or DRE system with or without a paper trail, period. You can hack the paper trails as easily as you can the internal numbers. Matt Bishop is one of the foremost experts in the world on computer security.
Many of the vulnerabilities can be exploited in a very straightforward manner.
Meaning it's not too hard.
Meaning it's not hard at all.
Are the elections being rigged?
Yes, our evidence shows that they are.
Evidence like the 2004 presidential recount results in Ohio. Jesse Tendler was a regional coordinator for that recount.
I was in charge of about 10 different counties. Not only was there discrepancy between the hand recount and the original certified vote, in most cases there was also a discrepancy between the hand recount and the machine recount in every precinct in every county.
That's a little confusing, so let's look at it carefully. In almost every precinct he was involved in, there was a difference between the hand count and the machine count. Here are some of the differences. In Bradford Village, the official certified machine count had 3 votes more than the hand count. In Piqua 2A, the machine count had 8 votes more. Troy 3E, 14 votes more. The machine seems to be adding a small number of votes each time, but could those small changes really have mattered?
The differences are absolutely meaningful differences. Difference of 6 votes per precinct could change the results of the entire election.
Oh,
This man will need help with you.
Okay. This man. Sí, ¿qué le puedo ayudar? Ah, seguro que sí, importante.
The issue was that she had a valid registration, but we did not have her name in any of our books. We provided a provisional ballot for her.
Basically, the provisional ballot is saying it will be decided later.
That's correct, because they would check it against that name against the voter registration list.
If she's registered, then she's not supposed to be given a provisional ballot. She's supposed to be allowed to vote. And so Elise is going to call the main office to find out if she's registered, so that we can send her back
have a list of registered
or you
people
can check
too.
it there,
Let's check
so
that.
She can go back and not have a provisional ballot.
Wonderful that you came out.
I'm going to drive him over there, okay?
Thank
Everybody's
you.
got it? I'll see you in a bit.
Yeah.
There's a list of
About 4 hours ago, it was all over the news that there's 2 states that were going to decide the election.
Pennsylvania, what a battleground. MSNBC says Kerry up 2, Quinnipiac says Bush up 2, LA Times dead even.
Virginia and Pennsylvania were still so close that nobody wanted to call. So we were just kind of like, oh my God, what we're doing is actually going to change the state of the nation if we work hard enough.
This is going to be the first time that I'm voting, so that's why I think it's real important. Now that I had moved earlier this year, I can't find what church to vote at because I was told that I have to vote at a church closer to my address. Now they tell me that I have to go back to the Salvation Army. I can vote today there. Once I'm done voting there, I can fill out a new address, so that way I'm allowed to vote here. I guess this is St. Luke's.
So you went from the Salvation Army to another polling place to this polling place, and now you're going back to the Salvation Army?
I have to go back to the Salvation Army.
It's no longer appropriate for the parties to be running our elections. We should lift them out of the hands of the parties and put them in the hands of distinguished individuals who are viewed as above partisan politics.
Would that give you more confidence in the process?
Yes.
It would? How come?
Yes. These people don't care who wins. It's their job to make sure the votes are counted correctly.
Whenever I talk to Brad Friedman or people like Matt Bishop who are very suspicious of elections, they always say, oh, I trust what's going on in Yolo County. Now, why is that?
We do everything in public.
The best security is to have a voting system that's 100% transparent from beginning to middle to end.
We invite our voters or anybody else in to watch what's going on and ask questions. And we are, also from the very beginning, we're extremely suspicious that recording votes on electronic media and nothing else was an invitation to disaster. Our solution has been to use optical scan voting systems.
In optical scan, you have a piece of paper where you fill in the oval, similar to your SAT test. There's still concerns about optical scan systems. We've seen them hacked down in Leon County, Florida. And we've seen errors with optical scan systems. In the 2006 primary up in Pottawatomie County, Iowa, you could flip the results of like 9 elections.
The electronic machines made by ES&S had miscounted every race on the ballot.
What we did was turn over a voting machine and the computer that controls it to Matt and a group of his graduate students and said, figure out everything you can about this machine and how it works.
Matt, do you like these machines?
Yes, very much.
What do you like about them?
First of all, that there's a human in the loop, someone who can see if there are problems.
The way ours runs, it takes an actual picture of every record.
We do visually check every ballot to verify that it is being tabulated correctly.
We also do a pretty exhaustive audit. We count probably 10% of our ballots by hand.
The 10% sample doesn't give you much confidence.
It doesn't give me much confidence. It may give someone that's really hot with statistics confidence. We want every single vote counted, and counted accurately the first time.
If what people really trust are the hand counts, why don't we just do the hand counts in the first place?
Sounds fine by me. And most of the countries around the world do exactly that.
In New Hampshire, it is in 45% of our towns.
I'm Dennis Makavarich. We're in the Wilton Town Hall building. It's a hand count town, paper ballots. There'd be 4 people sitting opposite each other. I'm one of them. I would look at the ballot and I would read it. This person is watching me read it, verifying that that's what I said. Then the person over here has a tally sheet and puts a check mark. The other person sitting there is observing that that person put the check mark in the right place.
So there's 4 people
4
making
people
sure
per ballot.
that each vote is counted correctly.
Yes.
Do you have a hard time getting those people?
No, people want to do it.
There are problems with hand-counted elections just as there are problems with electronically counted elections. What's ultimately important is that whichever process you do, it be open, it be observable, and people have faith in the results that you get.
Back at Move On headquarters, they were keeping track of how many of their contacts had voted so far.
We have about 2 hours left. It's crunch time. 50% of voters vote between 5 and 8.
All right. Numbers.
1,063.
I just want to know how many people you talked to, and then I want to know how many people total that is for the day.
All right, who's got more numbers? Oh, 77 Carey, 66 Bush. Pennsylvania isn't even in there yet.
Times morning.
Bobby, how many?
I think I've got 13 reporting, but I gotta check this voicemail.
I am the moon, you are the waves. I am the sun, you are the leaves. I am the sky, you are the flag.
Working this afternoon?
I am the light, you are the night, and I'll set you free.
Trust me, it's a long line. This is your fault, Wanda. You were out there making all those people vote all weekend. This line is your fault.
Hallelujah. 3 hours and 5 minutes. I am the grass, softens your path. I am the stream, you are the best, you are the search. I am the sight that don't believe, but I love despite, and I'll set you free.
I'm Charles Gibson. And I'm Diane Stone. It's Wednesday, November 3rd, and the morning after. We have said it's shaping up as a big night for the Republican Party, signs pointing to 4 more years for President Bush. But Ohio, still a technical question mark.
What were you doing yesterday?
I was cleaning my house. Didn't really bother going to vote.
Most of the non-voters I've talked to choose not to vote. For them, voting is a kind of charade, a game that elected officials would like you to participate in to make them look good. And we've seen that there are plenty of reasons to feel that way.
It's a constant battle between the forces of light and the forces of darkness. It's all relative as to what's light and what's dark. And boy, you better get in there and mix it up, or else somebody else is going to.
Once people realize and open up their eyes and take more initiative to try to change things that's messed up, then maybe things will be better.
If you do want to get registered to vote, an online site like Rock the Vote is an easy way. Or look in the city pages of your local phone book under Elections. They'll send you a form. If you already vote and want to do more, a conversation is a great place to start.
If you come out to talk to us and to reach out to us, we're going to reach back.
Even though I can't give as much as other people give in terms of my time and commitment, I don't let that stop me now. I know if I can give one day, that's great. And that's one day more than I was going to give.
George Bush won the 2004 presidential election.
I'm ecstatic. Finally, we're through with the election and now we can accomplish something.
He increased his support in the Latino community by 7%.
We need to make sure that our voices are heard, but not as a whisper, very loud and very clear.
John Kerry won Allentown and the rest of Lehigh County by 3,780 votes. Move On estimates they turned out 7,900 voters there.
My roommate is from there, and she's like, that wasn't gonna go blue. That's a big deal that it went blue, and I feel really good that I got to be part of that.
The race was won by almost 3 million votes, but approximately 78 million, or almost 40% of eligible voters, didn't vote. Wendy wound up voting for John Kerry.
You voted in this last election?
Yep.
And you're planning on voting in the future?
No, not really. Not really.
How did you feel after the election?
Oh, I cried. I cried.
I remember Alyssa saying, like, it felt like somebody died.
It was just a devastating loss.
This is the final reason I want to talk about that people don't vote.
I have the feeling that one of the reasons why people don't get involved is because they don't want to risk that kind of disappointment.
I thought about that because we were in Massachusetts during the Red Sox playoffs. You know, we were working college campuses. These students were like useless for 2 weeks, and they just cared so much. And then the election happens. People the next day, oh, well, you know, it sucks, whatever, I want to carry, or, oh, Bush won, that was cool. And I think the thing with sports is, like, you can get so emotionally invested in it because there's no consequences. I think with the election, if you lose, you can lose really big.
So I woke up this morning with this weird feeling, and it was kind of like I was not really myself anymore. So I ran to the mirror, and it was still me, that same cynical, doubtful, unshaven, dirty look. Unshaven, dirty. Look, I don't know what's wrong with me. I mean, I've been trying to figure it out for some time now. Talking to people about it. It's kind of hard to explain. I mean, it's sort of like a lack of excitement about anything. Maybe I need to address these issues with someone who is a professional. Or maybe I need to say that I wish you would leave me alone, this is personal. The other night I just think I was pissed when you told me you thought I had lost control. Or maybe I need to address these issues with someone who is a professional. It's just a phase. It's like something that I'm just gonna get through or get over. I mean, maybe I'm just jaded for the time being. You know, just desensitized from growing up in a time when I was barraged with action movies and video games and overblown media hype, scandals and exposés, and the line between reality and fiction just completely blurred. You know? Maybe I need to address these issues with someone who is a professional. Or maybe I need to say that I wish you would leave me alone, this is personal. The other night I just think I was pissed when you told me you thought I had lost control. Or maybe I need to address these issues with someone who is a professional.